A little bit ago, in another video, I told you the story of little Johnny. Little Johnny is a poor boy who fell out of a tree and broke his leg, so he came to the doctor and he was examined and x-rayed, and they put a cast on him and they gave him some crutches and sent him on his way. And I introduced the ICD-9 using this form. This is the CMS 1500 claim form, and this is what the federal government requires providers to use when they want to bill a third party, at least a federal third party, for medical services. And pretty much every insurance company uses the same form. The top portion tells us about the patient and their insurance information. The bottom portion is what coders use, and it's where they record what happened in the visit. The ICD-9 codes, which you've already learned, give us the detail of what makes the treatment medically necessary. And for little Johnny, we looked up a code for a fracture of his femur, and we recorded it here, and we use that code to justify what code we put down here. This is the CPT code. It stands for Current Procedural Terminology, and basically what it says here is that the codes that go here are the things that were done to the patient or the things sold to them. So this is what's wrong, and this is what we did to them. And we need to find out where to get these codes so that we can communicate clearly with the payer what's going on. And they come from this book, the CPT manual. It's been written and it's printed by the American Medical Association. They're the ones that have come up with all these codes, and Medicare has given the AMA their blessing and said we'll agree with these codes and use these. And so to understand how the CPT manual is organized, you need to look at the edges. And if you take a look at the edge, there's all these colors and all these tabs here. Just like the ICD-9, in order to find a code here, a procedure code, you start with the index. However, in this book, the index is at the back. It's this green section at the back, and you can see it's just got lists of words and such. In fact, let's just go ahead and look one up for little Johnny. Let's look up the x-ray that we took. So I go to the page with the X's on it, and we see that x-ray of the femur is up here at the top of the page, and it says it's 73550. So we found the code in the index. Now we just go back to the appropriate section here in the CPT manual, and just like the ICD-9, it starts with a low number and it works its way up to the top. It starts with 0 zeros and climbs up to 999s, and they're 5 digits long, and this code was 73550. So if we look up that particular code, we will see 73550. It says radiologic exam, femur, 2 views. And if that's what we really want and that code makes sense, then we're going to go ahead and take that code and record it right here to say that we did that procedure on this patient and we want to get paid for it. Over here we'll put down the cost. And so we're hoping the insurance recognizes that that was necessary because we said that he had a fracture. So this book is separated into 6 sections that are found in what's called Category 1. The very first section is actually the most important, and it's called Evaluation and Management, or E&M codes. These are codes that are actually out of sequence numerically. They start with 992 instead of 001. But these are the codes that we use for any doctor's visit. And you'll spend a couple of chapters learning how to do E&M codes, and you'll begin to recognize that they're very important and they're a big deal out in the world of auditing and coding. So this section is the first red one, and then we flip through that and we get to a blue one. The blue one is anesthesia, and this is where the numbers actually do start to make sense. They start with 00100, and you can see all the codes here, and it just slowly climbs until the numbers reach a little higher section of digits here in what we call the surgery section, and it starts with the 10,000s, and then it goes all the way up to the 69,000s, and you can see if you look at your tabs that they are broken up. These are actually mostly body systems: musculoskeletal, respiratory, cardiovascular, and there's lots of codes for surgery, lots and lots, and so most of them in the book are actually surgery codes. When we finally get past the surgery codes, we get to this red section, and it's radiology. This is where we find codes on things like x-rays. That's where we found the code for little Johnny. We find MRIs in here and ultrasound and those types of things. And so there's a whole bunch of codes in here that are all in the 70,000s. They all start with the number 7. When we get to the 80,000s, we're in the pathology and laboratory section. And pathology and lab goes clear up to almost 90,000. And this is blood tests and tissue samples and that type of thing. The last section in Category 1 codes is medicine. And the medicine section is a catch-all for everything else. And so we find codes in here about ophthalmology and chiropractic and nutrition and endocrinology, and it's just kind of anything else. So it doesn't have anything to do with drugs. Sometimes students think that medicine means drugs, and it doesn't. It just means other types of procedures you can get from the doctor that doesn't fit in the other categories. If we flip to the next colored section in our book, we're done with Category 1 codes. All those codes are Category 1. Now we're in a little section called Category 2. And these are just small, it's a small section with special codes, and you can read about this in your book. They're not that important, but you should know that they exist. There's also some Category 3 codes, and they're also kind of special. They're temporary codes. Just know that they're there. And then we go past that color, and it's blue, and we get to some important appendices. The first appendix is pretty critical because it's where you find the modifiers. Modifiers change what a code means, and they're just added to the end. And you'll learn more about these a little bit later. There's other appendices in here that tell us other things. For example, Appendix C includes clinical examples to help us understand E&M codes. As we go past all these appendices, though, we eventually get back to the index, which is where you'll spend a lot of time using your CPT manual. And so that, in a nutshell, is the organization of the book. I strongly encourage you to go and just look at the tabs and get familiar with them and know what colors go where. Start to get used to what the number ranges are, so that if I were to talk to you about cardiovascular issues, you would just get used to the fact that they are in the 33,000s rather. So if we did all this correctly and we picked the right code for little Johnny and we said the procedures correctly, the insurance company will look at that and understand it's medically necessary and hopefully pay us. And that's why we code.